spring egg hunt. Permanent, okay. Yeah, some good feedback in the chat. There's you should take a few notes at this point as well. And some comments about from the chat there about sort of older events and how we do reuse a few of them or to try to give it a little bit of a unique update. That does save us a little bit of time. It is a lot of work to put together the events, and sometimes when we think about putting together the permanent content, they'll sort of be there forever, right? And so somebody who joins the game 2 months from now, they can still enjoy that permanent content. So by reusing aspects of the event, at least for a few years, it sort of helps us get those done a little quicker so that we also have time to work on the permanent content. Otherwise, the events become a full-time job for us pretty much is getting all the events together. That said, for the Great Winter Hunt, it's pretty big. We usually do something new. We might take a few things that worked from previous years and incorporate it into the new one. It gets a little awkward at times. There's things like the collectibles and that, and the mice sometimes are drawn or they have a theme that's very specific for 1 year, but we do our best to take those things from previous years and kind of make them work into the new event as best we can. And a comment from the chat was somebody said sometimes events feel like they get in the way of permanent content, and they can a little bit. It's a lot of work to put together the events, and that's less time that we spend on new areas to the game as well. But we try to get the balance right, and every once in a while we like to ask just this feedback question to kind of touch base and see how we're doing in that regard. Somebody said they really liked the cupcake event in the chat, and it did seem very, very popular, and it's also kind of easy to add a new year onto the end of that. So I think the tentative plan right now for 2016 for the birthday event is to have the cupcake return with a new year put on the end, where you could be shipping Labyrinth orders and things like that, and everything that came out during 2015. Some comments about new power types and new areas. We touched base a little bit on that last Feedback Friday. We had a question about what sort of storyline hunters were most excited to see added to the game next, what new areas they'd like to see, and had some great feedback last week as well as in the forum thread in the tavern. One little direction we've tried to go in as well, or something we're even considering for 2016, is to kind of scale back the events a little bit, so they're kind of a little more short and sweet. You get to go there and experience that the story, interact with the event mice, capture those breeds, and then when you sort of complete the storyline there, you could stick around to crown mice and everything, but to not feel too bad about, okay, I want to go back to whatever I was doing. And it was kind of feedback we got where an event would be so long, people kind of forgot what goals they had before the event started. So we also try to address that a little bit with the adventure book, because that's sort of a little banner that reminds you of, here's probably where you left off. If you took a break from the game, you're coming back after a few months, the adventure book will kind of show you, oh, here's what you haven't done yet, here's the big storylines. The second feedback question I have here is, and I think we've kind of already covered this a little bit with some of the other comments of the previous one, was what do you like most about events? What do you like least about events? I know one challenge I have with events, at least from designing either an event versus a permanent area, is that the events I find a little bit harder to sort of tune the time it takes as well as the rewards you earn, especially now that the game there's so many things to explore in the game. There's so much sort of high level equipment to find. It's hard to come up with compelling rewards, especially for very experienced hunters. That is still something that you can reasonably do in about a week as well, right? So to contrast that against something like the Labyrinth, where earning a piece of shiny, precious gold from the Minotaur takes quite a lot of time, a lot of strategy, resources. There's lots of different ways to approach getting that item. Whereas events, we usually aim, so okay, you can do it in a pretty short amount of time, but then that doesn't scale up with the size of the reward that you could potentially earn. They also have to be accessible to every hunter. So we do our best to try and have little separate side quests and goals for hunters of different levels, so that if you're lower ranked, you can do one thing, and if you're higher ranked, there's a few extra things to do as well. Comment from the chat too was the low points mouse as well. That is an issue as well, where the golden points income for an event. Obviously, it gets kind of awkward when you have masters going through the event and then you have archdukes going through the event. They kind of expect very different levels of points and gold, and it's a challenge to kind of craft something that's going to hit that note very well. Which is a particular challenge I know we all kind of face when we're putting together the events, is how to get it accessible for everyone, but still hopefully feel good for everyone as well. Somebody said, why not make events like the toxic spill? Yeah, I have to clarify on that a bit. The events are usually themed around a specific time of year or a specific event, so they wouldn't potentially be a good fit to bring out Halloween during July or something like that. Obviously, with this year's event, with the toboggan slope, we're trying to make it kind of accessible to everyone with the different themes of slope. So there's different rewards you can earn based on the slope you do, and the we'll also be. I think I'm back. Some comments about event rewards and in terms of traps. That's been another challenge as well. That the reward for doing an event that maybe takes a week or two, and maybe not any specific type of resource or having to leverage other things that you had available to you in the game to strategize with. It's challenging to add a trap that is going to be enticing to somebody who has a lot more powerful traps as well. At the same time, I don't think anyone who's gone through the time and effort to earn some of those really hard to acquire traps would want a different type of trap added that is better and took a lot less time to earn and was basically free from an event. That's a bit of a challenge. So I don't know if we'll ever have event traps be up to the level of some of the harder traps in the game, especially new ones that were added, let's say with the Labyrinth as well. Those are some pretty insanely powerful traps. Yeah, a comment about having unique abilities for traps is something we've sort of experimented with, and a few of the traps do have that. But again, it's a challenge to come up with something new every single time that everyone's going to find appealing. So even if it has sort of a one-off ability in one area there, a lot of the times it's hard to craft that in such a way where just having a more powerful trap wouldn't be better. So it also sort of increases a lot of the complexity of choosing which trap you want to use in which area when they all do something a little slightly different. It's a bit of a slippery slope, so but something we still experiment with. Yeah, comments about the point requirements for traps as well for events. That's another sort of check in place to see, if there is a particularly powerful trap, even a mid-tier trap, that the point requirement may also act as a little bit of a buffer so that a novice doesn't have something that's on par with the Reaper's Perch or something like the Arcane Capturing Rod of Never Yielding Mystery, which is a mouthful to say, but again, that's sort of meant for around legendary level hunters to have access to that sort of trap. Yeah, the hothouse base also in the chat was pointed out as an example of an item with a unique ability, but it can be a challenge as well to keep adding more and more things that do one specific thing. So it's something we just try to find the balance for when we can. The skins with stats as well as a suggestion from the chat, and we experimented a little bit with that with the Isle Idol trap, which I have a difficult time saying, but and those skins change the power type of a trap, and that was a little bit of an experiment into adding stats to trap skins, but it takes away a little bit from the skins being a purely cosmetic thing. And so it might work okay when it's paired with a very specific trap. So the Isle Idol, for instance, it only has 3 skins, and those 3 skins all change the power type of that one trap. Whereas, say, something like the Monstrobot, in the back of your mind, the skin should be, I'm going to use the one that I think looks the coolest, in my opinion. And if there's one that has even just +1 luck, I'm going to feel like, well, I shouldn't use the one that looks cool. I should use the one that is going to let me min-max or give me that one extra luck. And so it removes that sort of intention of choice when it comes to skins, of it being purely cosmetic and in the player's or hunter's opinion, letting them pick what they think looks coolest over what's going to give them the biggest advantage while they're hunting. It's also a bit of a slippery slope because the more sort of stats and variables in play do increase the complexity of choosing your trap when you're in an area. So it doesn't feel too bad, at least to me, for the some of the event rewards to have some of those niche bonuses, like the hothouse base was mentioned, or the I believe I forget the name of it. It looks like a dream catcher, but it has a special effect during fall in the seasonal garden. Because the event traps, not everyone will have them, so it doesn't get too overwhelming where there'll be this huge list of traps to pick from because they are a limited edition. Soul Harvester, thank you. That is what the trap is called. That the name eluded me. That looks like a dream catcher and works in the seasonal garden during fall. It can also be difficult to with some of the areas. Some of them are kind of fine-tuned to work very well for that sort of level of title, and adding a trap that had an ability in a specific area might throw something else a little bit out of balance. So typically when we do an area, we go, okay, here's the points in the gold and sort of the time it takes based off when, to say it legendary, if it's a legendary area. And then we work out, well, if I had 100% catch rate and everything was going my way, fine. If I was completely overpowered for the area, what is the most points in gold I could possibly earn, per hunt. And that kind of plays a role into then when you rank up how much points in gold that area will yield. So what that does is a little bit of a check to see, okay, by the time you can do 100% catch rate in, let's say, the catacombs, it'll be a while before you have a trap that powerful.